We live in a time where the internet is a big part of our daily lives. Yet in India, almost 38% of the population still does not have internet. That's roughly 579 million people, and New Delhi wants to change that. The government is pushing to make internet accessible for every Indian, and taking the lead is Reliance Industries Limited. Reliance Jio is going to launch its satellite-based internet service. 1,600 low Earth orbit satellites will beam internet directly to you.
A single Indian company just got the green light to build something no Indian company has ever built before. A constellation of 1,600 satellites orbiting 500 kilometers above your head, capable of pushing 5 terabytes per second of data across the entire country. That's not a typo. That's 8 times more capacity than Elon Musk's Starlink is currently approved for in India. This isn't a telecom story, this is a sovereignty story, and by the end of this video, you will understand why India's space regulator just quietly signed off on Reliance Jio going head-to-head with the biggest satellite operator on Earth. Hi, this is Indranil and you are watching the Spotlight Beyond Profession, where we decode the policy, the capital, and the governance behind the stories that matter. Today, space sovereignty and the satellite race over India. Let's get the facts straight first, no spin, just what's on record. India's space regulator, IN-SPACE, that's the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, has evaluated Reliance Jio's proposal to deploy roughly 1,600 low Earth orbit satellites. The verdict from officials familiar with the review: the plan is technically sound and comparable to global systems like Starlink. This wasn't a rubber stamp. The evaluation ran through 3 bodies: IN-SPACE, ISRO, and the Wireless Planning and Coordination Wing of the Department of Telecommunications. 3 separate technical gatekeepers, 1 aligned conclusion. Here's what the approval actually unlocks. The Indian government can now extend regulatory backing to Jio at the international level, specifically for securing orbital slots through the International Telecommunications Union, the global body that governs who gets to put what, where in space. Jio had explicitly asked New Delhi for this diplomatic and regulatory muscle to coordinate spectrum and orbital rights with rival satellite operators abroad. Now, the numbers. According to people familiar with the matter, Jio is proposing to deliver 4.5 to 5 terabyte per second of throughput over India. For context, Starlink currently holds approximately for 600 gigabytes per second in India. Amazon's Project Kuiper, branded Amazon Leo, is targeting 3 terabytes per second, but hasn't secured in-space authorization yet. If their numbers hold, Jio's would be the largest satellite capacity commitment India has ever seen, larger than Starlink's, larger than Amazon's. The use case isn't just broadband. Jio's filing covers fixed satellite services, think rural and enterprise connectivity, cellular backhaul, and mobile satellite services including direct-to-device connectivity, the kind that lets a regular smartphone talk to a satellite with no tower in between. The company also plans 20 to 22 ground stations across India to support the network. One more detail worth sitting with. The regulator has reportedly noted that Jio's orbital architecture is designed to allow coexistence with a future second Indian constellation, meaning this isn't built as a monopoly play, but as a foundation others could build alongside. IN-SPACE and Reliance Jio did not respond to request for a comment. Now here's where we apply the spotlight lens. Because a satellite license is never just a satellite license. It's a governance, national security, and market structure, all compressed into one regulatory filing. First, this is a national security story wearing a telecom costume. The report explicitly frames this as serving strategic defense requirements and reducing dependence on overseas satellite companies. Right now, the LEO space is dominated by one company, Starlink, with over 10,000 satellites in orbit. When your national broadband backbone, your border connectivity, your defense communications can be routed through infrastructure owned by a single foreign billionaire, that's not a hypothetical risk, it's a governance gap. What we are watching is India moving to close it, building sovereign, homegrown NGSO capacity instead of renting resilience from abroad. Second, this is the geopolitics of orbit. Satellite constellations are, in effect, critical infrastructure, the same category as ports, power grids, and telecom backbones. And just like those sectors, control matters more than convenience. Conflicts in Ukraine, in the Middle East have shown governments exactly how much leverage a foreign-owned satellite network can hold over a nation's communications in a crisis. India building its own capacity isn't just industrial policy, it's a risk management at a civilization scale. Third, market concentration deserves scrutiny, no applause by default. Jio is already India's largest telecom operator by subscriber base. If it also becomes India's dominant LEO satellite operator, regulators will eventually face the same question they have faced in terrestrial telecom. How do you balance a national champion's scale advantage against the need for genuine competition and consumer protection? The regulator's note about coexistence with a future second constellation is a signal it's already thinking about this, but intent on paper and enforcement in practice are two different things. That's a governance thread worth watching, not assuming away. Fourth, the ESG dimension is real. Even if it is obvious, space sustainability, orbital debris, spectrum congestion, end-of-life satellite disposal is an emerging governance frontier. A 1,600 satellite constellation adds meaningfully to congestion in low Earth orbit. As India scales its own space assets, the question of environmental and orbital governance standards, not just technical soundness, deserve the same scrutiny being applied to the technology itself. This is a pattern we keep tracking on the channel. Capital and technology moving faster than the governance frameworks built to hold them accountable. Zoom out and this fits a much bigger global pattern. Every major economy is racing to answer the same question. Who controls the pipes that data flows through when there's no ground infrastructure to rely on? The US has Starlink and Amazon Leo. China has its own state-backed constellations. The EU is building Irish, and now India is signaling it wants to domestic answer too, not through a state agency alone, but through a private conglomerate acting with government backing. That's a specific and important model: private capital, public strategic interest, regulatory alignment. It's the same playbook we have tracked across ESG adjacent sectors, energy transition, semiconductor policy, critical minerals, where governments are increasingly comfortable empowering national champions to do what state enterprises used to do alone. For global investors and policymakers watching India, the signal is this: India isn't just building satellites, it's building strategic autonomy in space, in spectrum, in data sovereignty. And the companies that align themselves with that mission are the ones likely to get the faster regulatory tailwinds going forward. The open question, the one we will keep watching, is whether the alignment comes with the transparent and competitive safeguards that genuine governance require, or whether strategic necessity becomes a permanent justification for reduced scrutiny. That's the Jio-LEO satellite story decoded, not just reported. If you want the ESG and governance lens applied to the stories shaping global capital, technology, and policy every single week, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next spotlight. Drop a comment. Should India's satellite future be led by private conglomerates, or should this stay a sovereign, state-led mission? We are reading every response. This is a spotlight beyond profession, beyond headlines, beyond borders. We will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching and signing it off.